Discipline over comfort, full audiobook. Comfort feels safe, but it weakens you. Discipline feels uncomfortable, and it changes everything. Most people organize their lives around ease. They avoid strain. They delay effort. This audiobook ends that pattern. You will learn to choose discomfort deliberately. Not for pain, for strength. What you tolerate today defines who you become. Software 1. Stop designing life for ease. Ease creates stagnation. You may not notice it at first. It feels harmless. It feels efficient. It feels deserved. But ease is rarely neutral. When you design your life around comfort, you design it around avoidance. You remove friction. You remove resistance. You remove effort. And slowly, without drama, you remove growth. Growth requires tension. Strength requires load. Discipline requires resistance. When you eliminate those things, you eliminate the very forces that shape you. Ease weakens me. Say it clearly. Say it without emotion. Ease weakens me. Look at your daily structure. Look at the systems you've built. How many decisions are optimized for comfort? How many are optimized for convenience? You wake up to the second alarm. You check your phone before standing up. You sit instead of stand. You scroll instead of think. You order instead of cook. You postpone instead of act. None of these destroy you instantly. That's the danger. They erode you slowly. Ease lowers your standards without announcing it. It trains your nervous system to avoid strain. It makes effort feel abnormal. It makes discipline feel extreme. You have a choice. You can design for ease, or you can design for strength. Most people choose ease because it feels intelligent. It feels modern. It feels optimized. But optimized for what? Less effort, less discomfort, less responsibility. That's the key. When you remove effort from your environment, you remove the need for willpower. That sounds good. It sounds efficient. But willpower is a muscle, and muscles atrophy without use. You are not meant to eliminate effort. You are meant to practice it. Small conveniences shape your character, not dramatically, not loudly, quietly. The elevator instead of the stairs. The quick reply instead of the difficult conversation. The distraction instead of the deep work. The excuse instead of the standard. Each decision teaches you who you are. Identity is built through repetition. If you repeatedly choose comfort, you become someone who chooses comfort. If you repeatedly choose effort, you become someone who chooses effort. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline is not dramatic. It is quiet refusal. It is choosing the harder option when no one is watching. It is building tolerance for discomfort without complaint. Discomfort builds strength. You don't need massive suffering. You need controlled friction. Wake up when the alarm rings. Leave the phone in another room. Take cold water at the end of the shower. Walk instead of drive when possible. Finish what you start. Say no when it's inconvenient. These are small acts, but they compound. Ease weakens me. I choose effort. This is not punishment, it is training. When you remove small conveniences, you sharpen attention. You increase tolerance. You restore your ability to endure. You have a choice. Comfort now, weakness later. Effort now, strength later. Modern life is designed to remove resistance. Food arrives instantly. Entertainment never ends. Communication is immediate. Silence is rare. Boredom is eliminated. But boredom builds creativity. Silence builds clarity. Hunger builds appreciation. Waiting builds patience. When you erase these experiences, you erase the qualities they produce. That's the key. You must reintroduce voluntary difficulty. Voluntary difficulty builds authority over yourself. It reminds you that you can act without being pushed. It reminds you that you are not controlled by impulse. You don't need their permission. Not from society, not from friends, not from comfort itself. You do not need permission to live deliberately. You do not need approval to make your life harder in the short term. You need standards. Stop asking, what's easier? Start asking, what builds me? This shift changes everything. Choosing effort is not about appearing tough. It is about strengthening your baseline. When effort becomes normal, pressure stops feeling overwhelming. When discipline becomes routine, chaos loses power over you. Ease weakens me. I choose effort. Discomfort builds strength. Repeat it until it becomes automatic. Look at your week. Identify 3 conveniences that weaken you. Remove them. Maybe it is constant background noise. Turn it off. Maybe it is unnecessary spending. Delay it. Maybe it is passive entertainment at night. Replace it with reading or reflection. Do not negotiate with yourself. Decide once. Execute daily. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. If you wait until you feel ready, you will design your life around feelings. Feelings fluctuate. Standards do not. The goal is not misery. The goal is resilience. Resilience is built in ordinary moments. It is built when you resist the urge to quit early. It is built when you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. It is built when you choose effort even when no reward is visible. You have a choice. Every morning, every decision, every small fork in the road. The weaker version of you chooses ease. The stronger version chooses effort. Both are available. Both are trained by repetition. That's the key. Stop designing your life to be smooth. Start designing it to be strengthening. Smooth lives create fragile people. Strengthening lives create durable ones. You do not need extreme hardship. You need consistent resistance. Ease weakens me. I choose effort. Discomfort builds strength. Let those phrases interrupt your impulses. Let them guide your structure. Let them replace negotiation. Remove the unnecessary cushion. Embrace controlled strain. Normalize doing what is slightly uncomfortable. This is how you rebuild internal authority. When effort becomes your default, confidence stops being fragile. It stops depending on circumstances. It starts depending on evidence. Daily evidence that you can choose what is harder. You don't need their permission. You need your own respect. And respect is earned through action, not intention. Here is the takeaway. If you design your life for ease, you design it for stagnation. If you design your life for effort, you design it for growth. Small conveniences are not neutral. They train you. Remove what weakens you. Reintroduce what strengthens you. Choose effort daily. Stia 2. Choose the hard option first. Discipline is a daily decision, not a personality trait, not a mood, not a burst of intensity. A decision. You make it in the morning. You make it at your desk. You make it when you see the task you've been avoiding. You have a choice. You can start with what is easy, or you can start with what is hard. Most people warm up with comfort. They check messages. They organize small things. They clear minor tasks. They tell themselves they are building momentum. They are not. They are delaying discomfort. Delay feels harmless. It feels strategic. It feels earned. But delay drains energy. The hard task grows heavier the longer it waits. Attention fragments. Doubt increases. Resistance multiplies. Hard first. That is the rule. When you choose the hardest meaningful task first, you change your internal hierarchy. You send a message to yourself. Effort is not postponed. Effort comes early. Effort comes early. This is not about productivity tricks. It is about identity. When you consistently confront difficulty before comfort, you build trust with yourself. You prove that you act based on standards, not preference. I do not delay. Say it plainly, without emotion, without negotiation. I do not delay. Delay is rarely about time. It is about avoidance. You delay because the task threatens your ego. It might expose weakness. It might require focus. It might demand sustained effort without immediate reward. That's the key. The task you resist most often contains the growth you need most. So you reverse the order. Before checking notifications, before casual conversation, before low-value tasks, you confront the work that matters. Hard first. This approach simplifies discipline. You no longer spend the day deciding when to start. You remove the debate. You remove the internal argument. Decision made. Action follows. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Comfort says, later. Discipline says, now. When you do the hard thing early, the rest of the day stabilizes. Pressure decreases. Mental noise reduces. Confidence rises. Not from hype, but from evidence. You did what you said you would do. That builds authority. You don't need their permission. You do not need permission to ignore distractions. You do not need permission to protect your first hours. You do not need approval to prioritize depth over responsiveness. You need clarity. Identify the single task that moves your life forward. Not the urgent one, the important one, the one that requires thought, courage, or sustained concentration. That task goes first, hard first. If your work is physical, you train the most demanding movement first. If your work is mental, you tackle the most cognitively heavy problem first. If your work is strategic, you address the decision you've been postponing. No warm-up through avoidance. Effort comes early. When effort comes early, excuses lose power. Fatigue has not yet accumulated. Distractions have not yet multiplied. Other people have not yet claimed your attention. Morning is leverage. Use it. You have a choice. You can spend your best energy on trivialities, or you can invest it where it compounds. Discipline is not tested at night when you are exhausted. It is tested at the beginning, when you are deciding how to deploy your focus. I do not delay. Delay creates anxiety. Action reduces it. The longer you wait, the more dramatic the task becomes in your mind. When you begin, reality replaces imagination. Most tasks are less overwhelming once engaged. That's the key. Action clarifies. Avoidance distorts. When you repeatedly choose the hard option first, you condition yourself to move toward pressure. Pressure stops feeling threatening. It becomes familiar, manageable. Discomfort builds strength. This applies daily. Write before you scroll. Train before you relax. Plan before you react. Lead before you complain. Hard first. Do not confuse movement with progress. Clearing emails is movement. Organizing files is movement. Adjusting minor details is movement. But if the core challenge remains untouched, progress has not begun. The hard task defines the day. If it is completed, the day is a success. If it is avoided, the day is diluted. You have a choice. Every morning presents the same fork: comfort first or effort first. Effort comes early. When you adopt this standard, your schedule aligns around it. You protect the first block of time. You reduce early distractions. You prepare the night before. You make starting frictionless and continuing inevitable. Preparation supports discipline. But preparation does not replace decision. Decision comes first, hard first. There will be resistance. Expect it. Your mind will offer alternatives. Just 5 minutes of something easy. Start small. You deserve a slow start. Recognize these for what they are: negotiations with comfort. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. You are not required to feel ready. You are required to act according to your standard. I do not delay. Repeat it when hesitation appears. Repeat it when the task looks heavy. Repeat it when your hand moves toward distraction. Discipline compounds. Each morning you choose effort early. You reduce the difficulty of choosing it tomorrow. Each morning you delay. You increase tomorrow's resistance. This is daily construction. You are constructing a self-image. Either you are someone who confronts difficulty immediately, or you are someone who circles around it. Both identities are built through repetition. You don't need their permission. You do not need external pressure to begin. You do not need urgency created by crisis. You do not need deadlines to force you into action. You can choose voluntarily. That is maturity. Hard first. This is how you lead yourself, before leading a team, before leading a family, before leading any project. Self-leadership begins at the start of the day, when no one is watching. Effort comes early. Make it automatic. Remove debate. Establish the rule once and apply it daily. Here is the takeaway: discipline is not built through intensity. It is built through order. When you consistently choose the hardest meaningful task first, you train yourself to move toward growth instead of away from it. Stop delaying. Stop negotiating. Start with effort. Every day. In the next chapter, we will examine how eliminating internal excuses strengthens execution and removes the final refuge of procrastination. Chapter 3. Train your tolerance for discomfort. Core lesson: discomfort is a skill. Behavior change: cold exposure, hunger control, physical strain. Reinforcement phrases: I tolerate discomfort. This is training. I stay steady. Chapter 3. Train your tolerance for discomfort. Discomfort is a skill, not a punishment, not a sign you are failing, not something to avoid, a skill. Most people treat discomfort as a warning. They feel tension and immediately seek relief. They feel hunger and immediately eat. They feel cold and immediately warm themselves. They feel strain and immediately stop. Relief becomes automatic. That reflex weakens you. You have a choice. You can obey every signal for comfort, or you can train your response to it. Discomfort is not the enemy. Untrained reaction is. That's the key. Your nervous system can be conditioned. Right now, it may be conditioned for ease, quick relief, instant gratification, minimal friction. You will retrain it. I tolerate discomfort. Say it without drama. I tolerate discomfort. Tolerance is built through exposure. Controlled exposure. Voluntary exposure. This is training. Cold exposure. Hunger control. Physical strain. These are not extreme acts. They are practical tools. Each one teaches your body and mind to remain steady under pressure. Start with cold. End your shower with cold water. Not for shock, for control. When the temperature drops, your body reacts. Breathing shortens. Muscles tense. The mind wants escape. Do not escape. Breathe slowly. Stand still. Stay present. I stay steady. You are teaching your system that discomfort does not require panic. You are separating sensation from reaction. Cold is temporary. Reaction is optional. This is training. Next, hunger. You do not need to eat at the first signal of appetite. Hunger is not an emergency. It rises, it peaks, it falls. Most people never observe this pattern because they interrupt it immediately. Delay a meal intentionally. Not to punish yourself. To observe yourself. Notice the thoughts. Notice the impatience. Notice the urge to justify breaking early. Stay steady. I tolerate discomfort. You are strengthening impulse control. You are proving that urges do not command you. They inform you. You decide. That's the key. Control over impulse creates control over behavior. Control over behavior creates control over outcomes. Now, physical strain. Lift slightly heavier than comfortable. Run slightly longer than convenient. Hold the plank past the first urge to quit. Choose stairs over elevators. Carry weight instead of avoiding it. Your muscles will burn. Your lungs will strain. Your mind will suggest stopping. Listen, but do not obey immediately. This is training. Physical strain translates into psychological resilience. When you practice staying under controlled stress, external pressure feels manageable. Meetings, conflict, deadlines, criticism. They lose intensity because your threshold has increased. I stay steady. Discomfort builds strength, not because it hurts, because it expands capacity. You are not trying to suffer endlessly. You are increasing tolerance deliberately. There is a difference. Random suffering creates resentment. Chosen discomfort creates growth. You have a choice. You can structure your life to eliminate strain. Climate control, constant snacking, endless entertainment, minimal exertion. Or you can insert friction strategically. Insert it. Small doses daily. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline means staying when leaving would be easier. It means holding position when quitting would be convenient. It means breathing through intensity instead of escaping it. I tolerate discomfort. Repetition makes this identity real. When the shower turns cold, you do not flinch. When hunger rises, you do not rush. When muscles burn, you do not collapse. You observe, you regulate, you endure. That's the key. Endurance is not about aggression. It is about steadiness. I stay steady. Most people mistake intensity for strength. They rely on spikes of motivation. They push hard once, then retreat for days. That pattern keeps tolerance low. Consistency builds tolerance. Short, repeated exposures, predictable strain, controlled stress, 5 minutes of cold, an hour of focused work without interruption, a workout completed even when energy is average. This is training. When discomfort becomes familiar, fear decreases. When fear decreases, action increases. You stop overestimating difficulty. You stop dramatizing effort. You don't need their permission. Not to push yourself, not to challenge yourself, not to endure voluntarily. You are responsible for your own conditioning. Every avoided discomfort reinforces fragility. Every endured discomfort reinforces resilience. I tolerate discomfort. Say it when the urge to quit appears. You are not trying to eliminate feeling. You are trying to widen your response window. Between stimulus and reaction, there is a gap. Training expands that gap. In that gap, discipline lives. You have a choice. React automatically or respond deliberately. Cold teaches breath control. Hunger teaches impulse control. Physical strain teaches persistence. Together, they teach composure. I stay steady. Composure under pressure is rare. That is why it is valuable. If you cannot handle minor discomfort, major challenges will destabilize you. If you cannot endure small strain, large strain will overwhelm you. Increase your baseline. Do not wait for life to impose hardship. Impose manageable hardship on yourself. Voluntarily. This is training. When you choose discomfort, you reclaim authority. You stop being managed by sensation. You start managing it. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline means you decide when to stop. Not your mood, not your impulses, not your environment. You decide. I tolerate discomfort. I stay steady. Repeat these phrases during the act itself, not after, during. The goal is not to prove toughness to others. It is to prove steadiness to yourself. And steadiness compounds. Here is the takeaway: discomfort is a skill that must be practiced. Through controlled cold exposure, hunger control, and physical strain, you expand your tolerance and strengthen your response to pressure. Stop escaping every signal of strain. Stay present, stay deliberate. Train daily. Chief 4. Remove comfort-based excuses. Excuses protect comfort, not progress. They sound reasonable. They sound intelligent. They sound justified, but they serve one purpose: preservation of ease. When you say you are too tired, too busy, not in the mood, or waiting for the right moment, you are not protecting your potential. You are protecting your comfort. Comfort is not a reason. That sentence must become automatic. Most excuses are not dramatic, they are subtle. I'll start tomorrow. Today was long. I need better conditions. I'll do it when I feel clear. These statements feel harmless. They are not. They train delay. You have a choice. You can align your actions with your feelings, or you can align them with your standards. Standards create progress. Feelings fluctuate. That's the key. Mood is unstable. Discipline is stable. If you only act when energized, you will build an inconsistent life. If you act according to principle, regardless of internal weather, you build reliability. Excuses end here, not next week, not after one more delay. Here, look closely at your most common excuse. Is it fatigue, mood, inconvenience, lack of ideal timing? Identify it clearly. Name it precisely. Then remove its authority. Being tired does not eliminate responsibility. Being uninspired does not eliminate obligation. Being inconvenienced does not eliminate commitment. I act anyway. This is not recklessness. It is self-leadership. There will be days when energy is low. There will be days when your mind resists. There will be days when the task feels heavier than usual. Those are the days that matter most. Anyone can perform under ideal conditions. Few can perform under ordinary discomfort. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. When you allow comfort-based excuses, you weaken your internal command. Each excuse becomes precedent. Each precedent becomes identity. I skip when I'm tired. I postpone when I'm stressed. I avoid when it's inconvenient. That identity compounds. You have a choice. You can interrupt it. Comfort is not a reason. Say it when the excuse forms. Say it before the delay becomes action. You are not required to feel strong to act strong. Action often creates the strength you are waiting for. That's the key. Energy follows engagement. Clarity follows motion. Confidence follows completion. When you wait for the perfect mood, you remain stagnant. When you begin despite resistance, momentum builds. I act anyway. This phrase removes negotiation. It ends the internal debate before it grows. You do not argue with your standards. You execute them. Consider tiredness. If you are physically exhausted beyond function, recovery is strategic. But most fatigue is mental resistance. It is discomfort disguised as depletion. Test it. Begin for 5 minutes. Start the workout. Open the document. Make the call. Often, the fatigue decreases once movement begins. Resistance was the barrier, not capacity. Excuses end here. Consider mood. Mood is weather. It changes hourly. If your productivity depends on emotional clarity, you will produce inconsistently. Act according to decision, not emotion. I act anyway. Consider inconvenience. The timing is not perfect. The environment is noisy. The conditions are not ideal. You adapt. You do not postpone indefinitely. Comfort is not a reason. Perfection is often a refined excuse. Waiting for the perfect setup delays progress. Controlled imperfection builds resilience. You don't need their permission. You do not need validation to proceed. You do not need sympathy for acting under strain. You do not need approval to hold yourself to a higher standard. You need consistency. Excuses protect comfort. They protect the present version of you. They protect your habits from being disrupted. Progress disrupts comfort. That disruption feels uncomfortable. So the mind produces justification. Recognize the pattern. Discomfort appears. The mind generates an excuse. Action is postponed. Comfort is preserved. Interrupt the sequence. Discomfort appears. You say. Comfort is not a reason. You act anyway. That's the key. Break the pattern at the moment of justification. I act anyway. Not recklessly. Not emotionally. Deliberately. You do not need to feel motivated. You need to honor your decision. When you remove comfort-based excuses, something changes internally. Self-respect increases. Doubt decreases. Your word to yourself strengthens. You begin to trust yourself. Trust is built when your behavior aligns with your commitment, especially when it is inconvenient. Excuses end here. This does not mean you ignore real limits. Injury requires recovery. Illness requires care. Strategic rest requires planning. But these are decisions, not emotional escapes. Learn the difference. True limitation is physical or structural. Excuse is emotional resistance seeking relief. You have a choice. Relief now, or growth later. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline means you execute the plan you set when you were clear, not the one you invent when you are uncomfortable. I act anyway. Make this your response to hesitation. Short, immediate, non-negotiable. The standard remains even when your mood drops. The task remains even when your energy dips. The commitment remains even when convenience disappears. That consistency builds strength. Here is the takeaway: excuses exist to protect comfort, not to advance your life. Fatigue, mood, and inconvenience are not reliable decision makers. Stop negotiating with resistance. End the pattern at the moment it begins. Act according to your standards, not your feelings. Comfort is not a reason. Chapter 5. Build discipline through repetition. Strength is built daily, not occasionally. Not in bursts. Not in emotional spikes. Not in rare moments of intensity daily. Discipline is not proven by what you do once. It is revealed by what you repeat. You have a choice. You can rely on motivation, or you can rely on repetition. Motivation is unstable. Repetition is predictable. That's the key. Progress is not the result of extreme effort once a month. It is the result of controlled effort every day. I repeat the work. Say it clearly. I repeat the work. Repetition feels ordinary. It feels unimpressive. It lacks drama. That is why most people abandon it. They want visible leaps. They want rapid transformation. But transformation hides inside monotony. Daily effort compounds. Small actions, repeated consistently, reshape identity. You do not become disciplined by declaring it. You become disciplined by performing the same necessary behaviors, whether you feel inspired or not. Wake at the same time. Train at the same hour. Work in the same focused block. Review your goals daily. Protect your standards without exception. None of this is exciting. It is effective. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline grows when decisions shrink. The fewer negotiations you allow, the stronger your baseline becomes. When a behavior is repeated enough times, it stops requiring intense willpower. It becomes default. That's the key. Defaults determine outcomes. If your default is effort, progress is steady. If your default is avoidance, stagnation is steady. I repeat the work. Repetition builds familiarity. Familiarity reduces resistance. When you train at the same time each day, your mind expects it. When you sit to focus at the same hour, your brain adapts. Consistency removes friction. You do not need grand plans. You need stable patterns. Daily effort compounds. One focused hour per day equals hundreds per year. One disciplined meal per day reshapes health over time. One honest evaluation per day sharpens awareness. Compounding is quiet. It does not announce itself, but it is relentless. You have a choice. Skip today because it seems small, or execute today because it matters. Strength is built daily, not occasionally. Occasional intensity creates soreness. Daily consistency creates capacity. When you act only when you feel strong, your progress fluctuates. When you act because it is scheduled, your strength stabilizes. I repeat the work. Repetition also reveals weakness. It exposes where you are inconsistent. It shows where excuses return. That is not failure. That is feedback. Discipline grows, but only if you continue. Missing once is a mistake. Missing repeatedly becomes identity. Protect the chain. Protect the pattern. You don't need their permission. You do not need applause for repeating simple tasks. You do not need recognition for quiet consistency. Discipline is built privately before it is visible publicly. Repeat anyway. That's the key. Your identity is shaped by what you do most often. If you most often delay, you become someone who delays. If you most often execute, you become someone who executes. I repeat the work. This phrase eliminates the search for novelty. You stop asking, what new method should I try? You start asking, did I execute the basics today? Basics repeated. Outperform complexity abandoned. Consider physical strength. One workout changes little. 50 consistent sessions change posture, stamina, and confidence. The body responds to repetition. The mind does the same. Daily effort compounds. Focus practiced daily increases focus capacity. Discipline practiced daily increases discipline capacity. Self-control practiced daily strengthens impulse regulation. Repetition rewires behavior. You have a choice. Break the pattern because it feels boring, or honor the pattern because it builds you. Boredom is not a signal to quit. It is a sign that the behavior is becoming automatic. This is progress. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. You will not always feel progress. That is irrelevant. Progress is happening beneath perception when actions are repeated consistently. I repeat the work. Even when energy is average, even when results are slow, even when no one notices. Repetition creates evidence. Evidence creates confidence. Confidence reduces hesitation. Discipline grows. It grows in small increments. It grows when you follow through on minor commitments. It grows when you finish what you start, especially when it feels routine. Avoid the trap of occasional overexertion. Intense days followed by long gaps weaken momentum. Sustainable discipline is measured. Repeatable, controlled? That's the key. Can you repeat it tomorrow? If not, it is too extreme. Sustainable effort builds durable strength. Daily effort compounds. Protect your routines. Simplify them. Make them clear. Make them measurable. Make them non-negotiable. Repetition is not glamorous. It is powerful. You have a choice. Chase intensity, or commit to consistency. Choose consistency. I repeat the work. Let that phrase guide your days. Let it replace the need for excitement. Let it anchor you when results feel distant. Strength is built daily, not occasionally. Here is the takeaway. Discipline is not created by rare moments of effort. It is built through repeated, structured action every single day. Stop chasing spikes of motivation. Focus on consistent execution. Protect your routines. Repeat the work until it becomes identity. Daily effort compounds. Discipline grows. Chapter 6. Replace pleasure with purpose. Purpose sustains effort longer than pleasure. Pleasure is immediate. Purpose is enduring. Pleasure excites. Purpose stabilizes. Most people build their days around small rewards. Entertainment between tasks. Snacks between meals. Scrolling between efforts. They chase stimulation to feel good in the moment. It feels harmless. It is not. Pleasure fragments focus. It trains dependency on reward. It lowers tolerance for sustained effort. Purpose over pleasure. This must become your standard. You have a choice. You can structure your life around what feels good now, or you can structure it around what matters long-term. Pleasure fades quickly. Purpose accumulates. That's the key. Pleasure requires repetition to maintain intensity. Purpose deepens with repetition. When you rely on pleasure, you need constant novelty. When you rely on purpose, repetition becomes meaningful. I delay reward. This is not deprivation. It is sequencing. Work first, reward later. Effort first, enjoyment after. When you reverse this order, you weaken your discipline. When pleasure precedes effort, motivation drops. When effort precedes pleasure, satisfaction increases. Purpose over pleasure. Ask yourself a direct question. Does this action move me toward something meaningful? Or does it simply feel good right now? Be honest. Pleasure is not wrong. Uncontrolled pleasure is. You do not eliminate enjoyment. You control its timing and quantity. I delay reward. Delaying reward strengthens self-command. It proves that you can tolerate anticipation. It proves that you are not governed by impulse. Impulse seeks relief. Purpose seeks progress. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Comfort says, you deserve this now. Discipline says, earn it. When pleasure becomes constant, meaning weakens. When pleasure is scarce and intentional, meaning strengthens. Meaning lasts. Pleasure peaks and collapses. Meaning sustains. You feel pleasure while consuming. You feel purpose while building. Building is slower. It requires patience. It requires concentration. It requires sacrifice of immediate gratification. That sacrifice is strength. You have a choice. Consume first, or create first. Consume first, and energy disperses. Create first, and energy compounds. Purpose over pleasure. Limit indulgence deliberately. Reduce passive entertainment. Limit unnecessary spending. Restrict constant stimulation. Avoid reward without effort. This is not moral judgment. It is strategic design. If your nervous system is constantly stimulated, deep work feels dull. If your brain is flooded with easy dopamine, meaningful effort feels heavy. Reset the baseline. I delay reward. Work without checking your phone. Train without music occasionally. Eat without distraction. Sit in silence after finishing a task before seeking stimulation. You are retraining your reward system. That's the key. When effort itself becomes satisfying, you no longer need constant pleasure to continue. Purpose fuels endurance. Pleasure fuels impulse. Endurance wins long-term. You don't need their permission. You do not need validation to choose meaning over entertainment. You do not need approval to decline invitations that dilute your focus. You do not need agreement to pursue long-term goals quietly. Protect your purpose. Pleasure will always be available. Purpose requires protection. Meaning lasts. When you finish meaningful work, the satisfaction is stable. It does not spike and crash. It settles. It strengthens identity. It reinforces self-respect. Pleasure, unchecked, does the opposite. It spikes. It fades. It demands repetition. You have a choice. Short-term stimulation or long-term construction. I delay reward. Delaying reward does not remove joy. It intensifies it. When reward follows effort, it carries weight. It feels earned. It feels aligned. Earned pleasure strengthens discipline. Unearned pleasure weakens it. Purpose over pleasure. Let that phrase guide your scheduling. Schedule meaningful work at your peak energy. Protect it from interruption. Remove unnecessary indulgence during that block. Then, after completion, allow measured enjoyment. Sequence determines strength. If you start the day with indulgence, your standard drops. If you start the day with purpose, your standard rises. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline means you decide what deserves your attention, not your cravings, not your boredom, not your impulses. You decide, meaning lasts. Years from now, you will not remember most pleasures. You will remember what you built, what you contributed, what you completed despite difficulty. Purpose sustains effort because it is attached to identity. It answers why. Pleasure only answers how it feels right now. When effort is tied to purpose, quitting feels misaligned. When effort is tied only to reward, quitting feels easy once reward fades. That's the key. Anchor your effort in meaning, not in mood. I delay reward. Repeat it when temptation appears. Repeat it when distraction invites you. Repeat it when indulgence feels justified without effort. You are not rejecting pleasure. You are mastering it. Mastery creates freedom. Here is the takeaway: pleasure is temporary. Purpose is durable. If you build your life around stimulation, your discipline will weaken. If you build it around meaning, your endurance will grow. Limit indulgence. Sequence reward after effort. Choose long-term significance over short-term comfort. Purpose over pleasure. Meaning lasts. Shiata 7. Stay disciplined when no one forces you. Self-discipline matters most in freedom. Anyone can perform under supervision. Anyone can comply under pressure. Anyone can meet a deadline when consequences are immediate. That is not strength. Strength is acting correctly when there is no threat, no reward, and no audience. You have a choice. You can depend on enforcement, or you can develop internal command. External pressure is temporary. Internal discipline is permanent. That's the key. If you only perform when watched, your character is conditional. If you perform when free, your character is stable. Freedom exposes truth. When no one checks your work, do you still complete it? When no one monitors your habits, do you still follow them? When no one would know if you stopped early, do you still continue? These moments define you. I do not need enforcement. Say it clearly. I do not need enforcement. Enforcement creates compliance. Discipline creates ownership. When you rely on deadlines, supervision, or fear to act, you surrender control. You wait to be pushed. You wait to be corrected. You wait to be measured. Self-discipline removes the need to wait. I choose discipline. Choice is power. When you voluntarily follow your routine, you prove that your standards are not dependent on circumstance. You prove that you are not reactive. You are directed. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Freedom often increases comfort. No one forces you to wake early. No one forces you to train. No one forces you to read, to build, to reflect. And that is where most people weaken. Without pressure, they drift. Drift is subtle. You sleep slightly longer. You skip one session. You delay one task. Nothing dramatic happens. That is the danger. In freedom, decay is quiet. You have a choice. Drift slowly, or lead yourself deliberately. I stay consistent. Consistency without enforcement is rare. That rarity makes it powerful. When you build routines that survive freedom, you become reliable. Reliability builds trust. Trust builds authority. That's the key. Authority over yourself matters more than control over others. Consider your morning routine. If no one expects you at a certain hour, do you still rise when planned? If no one tracks your progress, do you still measure it? If no one demands output, do you still produce? Answer honestly. I do not need enforcement. Freedom tests integrity. Integrity is alignment between what you say and what you do, especially when there are no witnesses. If your habits collapse in private, they were never strong. They were supported by pressure, not principle. Build them on principle. I choose discipline. Choosing discipline means executing the routine you defined when you were clear, not the routine that feels convenient in the moment. You defined standards for a reason. Do not abandon them when supervision disappears. You don't need their permission. You do not need someone to assign you tasks. You do not need someone to monitor your effort. You do not need someone to remind you of your goals. Remind yourself. Self-discipline matters most in freedom because freedom multiplies options. You can work or you can waste time. You can train or you can rest unnecessarily. You can study or you can distract yourself endlessly. Options reveal priorities. I stay consistent. Consistency in freedom strengthens identity. You stop being someone who needs pushing. You become someone who pushes himself. That shift changes everything. When no one forces you, your excuses become louder. It can wait. No one will notice. It doesn't matter today. Interrupt that thinking. I choose discipline. Freedom is not the absence of structure. It is the opportunity to create your own structure. That's the key. If you do not impose standards on yourself, comfort will impose mediocrity on you. Design your routines clearly. Fixed start times. Defined work blocks. Scheduled training. Planned reflection. Follow them whether external pressure exists or not. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Comfort in freedom is easy. Discipline in freedom is strength. You have a choice. Be disciplined only when forced, or be disciplined because it is who you are. Identity built under freedom is durable. It does not collapse when supervision fades. It does not depend on environment. It travels with you. I do not need enforcement. I choose discipline. I stay consistent. Repeat these phrases when temptation to drift appears. Private discipline creates public results. Most people want recognition. Few want the private structure that produces it. The structure is built alone. The routine is followed alone. The repetitions are completed alone. That is where strength is formed. When you can rely on yourself without pressure, you become independent of circumstances. You become steady regardless of environment. That steadiness compounds. Here is the takeaway. Self-discipline is proven in freedom. When no one forces you, your standards either collapse or solidify. Stop depending on enforcement. Create structure and follow it voluntarily. Execute your routines without supervision. Choose discipline daily. Stay consistent, especially when you are free. Accept R8. Accept temporary discomfort for permanent gain. Long-term strength requires short-term sacrifice. There is no way around this. You either experience controlled discomfort now or uncontrolled difficulty later. You have a choice. You can pay the price early, or you can pay it with interest. Short-term pain, long-term gain. This principle governs growth. Physical strength, financial stability, mental resilience, professional mastery, all demand delayed comfort. The problem is not ignorance. The principle is simple. The problem is tolerance. Most people understand sacrifice. Few practice it consistently. That's the key. The gap between knowing and doing is discomfort. You must learn to endure inconvenience without dramatizing it. Waking early when sleep feels good. Saving money when spending feels exciting. Training when resting feels easier. Studying when entertainment is available. Having difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. Each moment asks the same question. Comfort now or strength later? I invest in myself. Say it when sacrifice feels inconvenient. I invest in myself. Sacrifice is not loss. It is exchange. You exchange immediate pleasure for future capacity. You exchange convenience for capability. You exchange ease for endurance. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Temporary discomfort is predictable. It has boundaries, it ends. Permanent weakness is unpredictable. It compounds quietly. When you avoid short-term strain, you extend long-term limitation. That's the key. Avoidance feels safe in the moment. It creates vulnerability over time. Strength lasts, comfort fades, results remain. The workout ends, the strength stays, the study session ends, the knowledge stays. The disciplined savings habit feels restrictive. The financial security lasts. Temporary effort creates durable benefit. You have a choice. You can define sacrifice as suffering, or you can define it as investment. Investment requires patience. It requires belief in compounding. It requires discipline when rewards are invisible. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. When results are delayed, motivation weakens. That is when discipline must lead. Do not measure value by immediate feeling. Measure value by long-term return. I invest in myself. This phrase reframes inconvenience. Instead of asking, "Why is this hard?" ask, "What will this build?" Repetition of sacrifice builds identity. You become someone who thinks beyond today, someone who values future strength over present ease, short-term pain, long-term gain. This applies to every domain. In health, you sacrifice indulgence for vitality. In work, you sacrifice distraction for mastery. In relationships, you sacrifice ego for trust. In finance, you sacrifice spending for stability. Each sacrifice feels small in isolation. Together, they define trajectory. That's the key. Trajectory matters more than momentary comfort. When you consistently accept temporary discomfort, you increase optionality in the future. You gain freedom. You gain leverage. You gain control. Strength lasts. Weakness also lasts. The body neglected today becomes fragile tomorrow. The skill ignored today becomes limitation tomorrow. The opportunity avoided today becomes regret tomorrow. Regret is accumulated avoidance. You have a choice. Experience discomfort voluntarily now, or experience consequence involuntarily later. Voluntary discomfort strengthens character. Involuntary discomfort exposes its absence. I invest in myself. Investment requires saying no to impulse, no to distraction, no to unnecessary indulgence, no to shortcuts that weaken standards. Every no protects a future. Yes, yes to health, yes to competence, yes to stability, yes to confidence. Short-term pain, long-term gain. The pain is rarely extreme. It is usually mild inconvenience, slight fatigue, minor restriction, controlled strain. Most people exaggerate this discomfort in their mind. They treat inconvenience as suffering. Correct that distortion. Inconvenience is manageable. Weakness is costly. That's the key. When you normalize temporary sacrifice, you reduce emotional resistance. It becomes part of the process, not a threat. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline allows you to see beyond the present moment. It aligns behavior with long-term vision. It prioritizes durability over ease. Strength lasts. Pleasure fades quickly. Strength endures quietly years from now. You will not remember the nights you chose entertainment over effort. But you will live with the consequences of those decisions. You will also live with the benefits of disciplined sacrifice. Your future condition is being shaped now. I invest in myself. When the alarm rings early. When the workout feels heavy. When the study session feels long. When saving money feels restrictive. Repeat it. You are not losing comfort. You are purchasing capacity. You have a choice. Temporary ease with long-term limitation, or temporary strain with long-term strength. Choose strain. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Here is the takeaway. Long-term strength is built through repeated short-term sacrifice. Discomfort today is often the price of freedom tomorrow. Stop avoiding inconvenience. Accept it as investment. Endure controlled strain for durable results. I invest in myself. Strength lasts. CPR 9. Detach from the need to feel good. Feelings should not dictate behavior. They inform you. They do not command you. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait to feel motivated. They wait to feel confident, energized, certain. Waiting becomes habit. Progress stalls. You have a choice. You can organize your life around emotional comfort, or you can organize it around disciplined action. Feeling is irrelevant. That statement challenges the ego. It challenges habit. It challenges the belief that emotion must align with effort before movement begins. It does not. That's the key. Action does not require emotional approval. You can feel tired and still train. You can feel doubtful and still begin. You can feel unmotivated and still execute. Emotion and behavior are separate systems. Most people fuse them. They believe, if I don't feel like it, I shouldn't do it. That belief weakens consistency. Consistency wins, not intensity, not inspiration, not emotional highs. Consistency. When feelings dictate behavior, output becomes unstable. Good mood equals productivity. Low mood equals delay. Energy high equals progress. Energy low equals avoidance. This creates volatility. I act with discipline. Discipline means behavior is anchored to standards, not sensations. You defined your routine when you were clear. You set goals when you were rational. Do not abandon those decisions because your mood shifts. Mood is weather. Standards are structure. Feeling is irrelevant. This does not mean you suppress emotion. It means you stop giving it authority over action. Acknowledge the feeling, then proceed. You have a choice. Use emotion as an excuse, or treat it as background noise. Background noise does not control movement. That's the key. When you detach from the need to feel good before acting, you eliminate a major barrier to execution. The need to feel good is subtle. It shows up as, I need the right mindset. I need more clarity. I need to reset first. Often, these are delays disguised as preparation. Preparation has limits. Action clarifies more than rumination. I act with discipline. This phrase replaces hesitation. It short circuits negotiation. You are not required to feel inspired to work. You are not required to feel confident to try. You are not required to feel certain to begin. You are required to act according to your standards. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Comfort-based action creates inconsistency. Discipline-based action creates stability. When you train yourself to act despite mood, something shifts. Feelings lose dominance. They become signals, not rulers. Consistency wins. Consider fatigue. Sometimes fatigue is real and requires recovery, but often it is resistance labeled as exhaustion. The difference is tested through action. Begin for 5 minutes. If capacity exists, continue. If not, adjust deliberately, not emotionally. Consider doubt. Doubt does not disappear before action. It fades through evidence. Evidence is created by starting. Consider fear. Fear often precedes growth. Waiting for fear to vanish ensures stagnation. Acting while afraid builds courage. That's the key. Courage is action in the presence of discomfort, not the absence of it. Feeling is irrelevant. You may not feel disciplined. Act disciplined. You may not feel focused. Sit and focus. You may not feel resilient. Continue anyway. Identity follows behavior. If you repeatedly act based on discipline instead of mood, you become disciplined. If you repeatedly wait for the right feeling, you become dependent on it. You have a choice. Dependency on emotion, or authority over behavior. I act with discipline. This is self-command. Self-command reduces drama. There is less internal debate, less analysis of mood, less justification for delay. You do what you planned. No performance. No emotional negotiation. Just execution. Consistency wins. Daily execution, regardless of internal fluctuations, compounds. It builds skill. It builds confidence. It builds reliability. Unstable action builds frustration. You perform well some days and poorly others. You attribute inconsistency to mood. In reality, it is structure failure. Structure must override feeling. That's the key. When structure leads, mood adapts. When mood leads, structure collapses. You don't need their permission. You do not need validation for acting without inspiration. You do not need approval for being steady instead of emotional. You do not need applause for consistency. Stability is quiet. Feeling is irrelevant. This does not make you robotic. It makes you reliable. Emotions will still exist. You will still feel excitement, doubt, boredom, frustration. But those feelings will no longer determine output. Output will be determined by choice. You have a choice. Honor your mood, or honor your standards. Choose standards. I act with discipline. Consistency wins. Repeat these phrases when hesitation appears. Use them to interrupt the habit of waiting to feel good. Here is the takeaway: feelings are unstable. Standards are stable. When you detach from the need to feel good before acting, you remove a major obstacle to progress. Stop waiting for motivation. Act according to your commitments. Let mood fluctuate without controlling behavior. Feeling is irrelevant. Consistency wins. CFDR 10. Become strong through choice. Strength is chosen, not given. It is not inherited. It is not granted. It is not assigned by circumstance. It is selected. Every day you have a choice. That choice appears in small moments. Quiet moments. Unnoticed moments. Moments where no one is watching and nothing forces your hand. Strength lives there. Most people believe strength is built in extreme situations. Crisis, pressure, deadlines, competition. Those moments reveal strength. They do not create it. That's the key. Strength is built in ordinary decisions long before it is tested. When the alarm rings, when the task feels heavy, when distraction is available, when quitting would be easy. In those moments, nothing external compels you. There is no enforcement, no urgency, no immediate consequence. Only choice. I choose strength. Say it without emotion. I choose strength. Strength is not a feeling. It is a decision repeated until it becomes identity. If you wait to feel strong, you will wait indefinitely. If you decide to act strong, strength develops. Discipline defines me. Discipline is not what you do once. It is what you refuse to debate. Debate weakens execution. Debate creates delay. Debate invites comfort into the conversation. Remove the debate. You already know what must be done. You already set the standard. You already defined the routine. Execute. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Comfort argues. Discipline acts. When you wake and immediately negotiate with yourself, you dilute authority. When you act without internal discussion, you reinforce it. Authority over yourself is strength. That's the key. Every time you choose discipline without argument, you strengthen internal command. I choose strength. This choice must become immediate, not dramatic. Immediate. You do not ask, do I feel like training? You do not ask, am I motivated? You do not ask, is today different? You act. This is who I am. Identity removes friction. If strength is something you attempt occasionally, it remains fragile. If strength becomes identity, it becomes stable. I am trying to be disciplined. Creates uncertainty. Discipline defines me. Creates clarity. Clarity simplifies behavior. You have a choice. Be someone who sometimes chooses effort, or be someone who always defaults to it. Default determines destiny. When discipline becomes default, excuses lose oxygen. Distraction loses power. Mood loses authority. This is who I am. That phrase eliminates hesitation. It reframes effort as alignment, not struggle. When you act with discipline, You are not forcing yourself. You are expressing yourself. That's the key. Strength is self-expression through action. You don't need their permission. You do not need approval to live by higher standards. You do not need recognition for disciplined behavior. You do not need external pressure to act correctly. Your choice is enough. I choose strength. Choice implies ownership. No one is making you wake early. No one is making you train. No one is making you focus. When you act voluntarily. Voluntary effort builds durable confidence. Confidence built on choice is stronger than confidence built on circumstance. Discipline defines me. When pressure increases, you will not search for strength. You will rely on habit. Habit formed through daily choice. This is why debate must end. When you remove internal argument, you conserve energy. Decision fatigue decreases. Execution becomes automatic. You act because that is what you do. This is who I am. Identity sustains discipline when motivation fades. Identity sustains discipline when rewards are delayed. Identity sustains discipline when no one is watching. You have a choice, each task, each decision. Strength is not a one-time declaration. It is a daily confirmation. I choose strength. Say it when temptation appears. Say it when comfort invites you to lower your standard. Say it when fatigue suggests delay. Choice overrides impulse. It's not about comfort. It's about discipline. Discipline becomes easier when it is non-negotiable. When something is non-negotiable, it is not evaluated each day. It is executed. Make your standards non-negotiable. Wake time, work block, training session, reflection period. No debate. That's the key. When you choose strength repeatedly, it compounds into character. Character compounds into reputation. Reputation compounds into opportunity. But those outcomes are secondary. The primary result is self-respect. Self-respect grows when your actions match your words. When you follow through without being pushed. When you choose the harder path because it aligns with who you are. Discipline defines me. This is who I am. Let those phrases guide your identity. Strength is chosen in silence, chosen in routine, chosen in repetition, chosen in freedom. Here is the takeaway: strength is not given by circumstance. It is selected through daily decisions. Stop debating what you already know must be done. Remove negotiation. Act according to your standards immediately. Choose discipline until it becomes identity. I choose strength. Discipline defines me. This is who I am. CLOSNG. Comfort will always invite you. Discipline will challenge you. One weakens over time. The other builds strength. From today forward, stop asking what feels good. Ask what builds you. Choose effort. Choose discipline. Choose strength. Comfort fades. Discipline remains.